Marilyn Kroplick is the president of In Defense of Animals. She, as an adolescent, sorry, my bio got a little mixed up here. She was trained as a child, adolescent, and board-certified adult psychiatrist. Throughout her life, she loved traveling the world, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, Cuba, South America. As a medical doctor, as a professional photographer, she photographed social movements, including the 60s civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, the women's rights movement. Her activism was published in underground activist newsletters, newspapers, books, weekly columns. She's been awarded grants for her photography, and she now has been handed over the torch at IDA to oversee their campaigns through education and litigation. Everyone, please welcome Marilyn Kroplick. You're gonna sit, or what? You don't want to come up? I want to see that.
Okay, that's fine. Good evening, fellow animal lovers, activists, farm coordinators, and friends. My name is Dr. Marilyn Kroplick. I've been at In Defense of Animals as president for the last 3 years. And In Defense of Animals is an organization that's been around for 30 years and was founded by Dr. Katz to protect animals, their rights, welfare, and habitats. We use different tools to do that. Advocacy, education, litigation, campaigns. But we also have a very unique aspect to this organization. We have 3 sanctuaries. One is in rural Mississippi. Another is in Africa and the Cameroons. And the third is in Mumbai, India. So we're caring for animals at the same time that we're advocating for them. And I was thinking of what I wanted to say tonight. And this is my first time talking at an animal rights conference, so bear with me. And I just thought maybe you should get to know me. When I was a child, I wasn't like any other ordinary one. I just kind of was by myself thinking, what do you want to be when you grow up? What kind of life do you want to live? What kind of values? And one thing that kept reverberating in my mind was that I wanted to make a contribution to the world. That's a strange thing for a kid to be thinking if they're a young child. But I didn't see any kind of happiness unless I could give back. And then when I got a little older, I started thinking, how can I unify people? How can I make it harmonious in the workplace? When just, how do we live in harmony together? And that brought me to becoming president of IDA, which had its own series of transitions and difficulties. Yay! But what I noticed, what I really saw, was that there were a lot of suffering going on among the activists. There was a lot of pain. Yeah. There was certainly a lot of pain with the animals, yes, but there was a tremendous amount of suffering for the people who are advocating for them, because their daily work is one of dealing with trauma. And yet, they didn't have anyone to speak to. Yeah, they wish they had you. They didn't have anybody to process this trauma with. And what happens? They feel tired, anxious, low morale, depressed, they want to quit the movement. And I started thinking, wow, and there's infighting between people. We're activists. We should all be working together to make this movement, a more inclusive movement. But there were splinters and fractions of people fighting one another. So I decided about a year ago to create the Council of Sustainable Activism at IDA. And that's just what the name says. It's to create sustainability for you, so that you can continue to work and put your heart and soul into it, into this cause, and become more effective as activists and animal lovers to make a real change in the movement. And I think that the movement needs to become more inclusive. It needs to be broadened. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be less divided. There's too many fractions. And also, it needs to be perhaps very, very strategic. You can't just use one brush to make something happen. You have to change with the times, sort of behind the scenes. So I was inspired to keep every single one of you here for the whole marathon. And it's going to be a long one. Don't think it's going to be a short one. We're going to have to change our tactics and change our strategies and go with the flow and then buck the people that we need to buck, but it's not going to happen overnight. And you've got to be strong. You've got to be resilient. You have got to be here for the long haul, not just for today. So, we can't lose a single activist. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing your points of view and speaking to you during this conference and telling you about some of the new programs we have at IDA. We're trying to reform it into a place of compassion, not only for animals and or humans, but for both. What a concept. People should know who they are and to know themselves so they can really help the animals truly. And that's the only way to go. So I would like to help you. I'd like you to join me in rewriting this story, this history about what's happening to animals, both humans, animals, and non-human animals. Thank you.